Welcome to Write Now Workshop Podcast, where you can write a book and change the world. I'm your host, Kitty Bucholtz, and this is episode 69, Play, Work, and Healing, an encouraging words episode coming to you on Sunday, May 27th, 2018. Let me start by saying that if you are listening to several podcasts in a row and I sound a little different, or if you're watching on YouTube and I look a little different, this is me after an entire night of thinking that I haven't slept at all. So Sweden has a gazillion hours of daylight every day now, and people are taking advantage of a really warm snap, like heat wave, basically, that we've been having. And last night, being a Friday night, somebody took advantage of both of those things and invited a bunch of people over, which for a while sounded really fun. I was like, oh, listen to those people laugh. Oh my gosh, listen to them sing. That's so funny. Ha ha ha. But not everybody went home until about 4 a.m. So I was awake an awful lot of that time, wishing that I were sleeping. So if I look or sound tired, that is the reason why. I expect there to be much more of this as we move into fewer and fewer hours of daylight and more beautiful hours of summer. And I hate to say it, but I'm looking forward today, right this second, I'm looking forward to winter when everybody is inside trying to stay warm and dry and there's darkness so I can sleep. Because this whole not really dark ever at night right now thing, it's a whole different way to live for somebody who normally wakes up whenever the sun comes up and goes to sleep whenever the sun goes down. Because, the sun isn't doing a whole lot of moving right now. Anyway, what I wanted to talk to you today on the Encouraging Words episode is that I am being reminded of the incredible importance of play and how it's been unbelievably underestimated in my life in the last few years. These last couple of weeks, I've been talking to you on and off about, trying to get back into the habit of play and remember what it is. What do I like to do anyway? Do I even like to write? Stuff like that. And I would have to say that in general, I've had a really good couple of weeks of feeling like I'm really making progress, Sadly, I'm not getting that much sleep and that kind of rest, but I'm trying to give myself other kinds of rest, and I'm trying to figure out how to reintroduce play into my life. So one of the things that I've been finding is that for me, going back to the place where I usually find guidance and wisdom and reminders about what works for me in my life is me being able to read my Bible every day, journal every day, sit and think about it, not just like reading from my Bible app on the run between one thing and another, but really being able to think about what it is that I'm reading and how can I apply this to my life to make me feel better and make me feel like, the emotional part that's been wearing down is beginning to heal again. And so, it's a good reminder to myself that positive self-talk really does make a big difference because it is leading to more joy and it is helping me to fight the negative thoughts and ideas, that come into my head. And honestly, I'm remembering now that what I've done is I've developed a bad negative habit of a habit of assuming something is going to go badly, assuming that it's going to be difficult, being tired and assuming then that I'm not going to like it and that I will continue to be tired. Just a lot of really bad recordings inside my head, and so it's helping me to remember that when I really do intentionally try to replace them with new positive recordings, that I'm finding more joy. Now, you guys have also heard me talk about hitting the restart button. It's a big thing in my life. Hitting the restart button is good for a gazillion things, really anything that you need to stop a behavior or a thought or anything, and find some way to just basically start again, make it better this time though. That's a thing that I've been really working on a lot in my life and sharing with other people, both in time management kinds of classes and just, anything that has to do with any part of my life. And if you have been listening to the podcast from the beginning, you've heard me talk about my husband's idea of today's box. Like, let's just focus on what can be done today, what has to be done today, and not worry about or fear or, have all of our thoughts consumed with something that we can't do anything about today, that's tomorrow or next week or next month or next year or sometime in the future that we can't even, know. So I'm finding that all these things are really beginning to work together. The positive self-talk is leading me to have more joy. And then that more slowly, more healed frame of mind is helping me to remember more often to just stop, hit the restart button, maybe take these thoughts captive and kick them to the curb because thoughts are going through my head that I'm like, wait, that isn't true. It might have been true once. This might have been, a reaction to a fear that was important for my mind and body, whatever, to protect myself from at some point, but it's not true today. And I don't need any kind of protection from anything right now. Now it's just become a fear, and I need to get the fear out of my head because it's causing other things to not really work right. And so when I try to remember, okay, today's box, hit the restart button again. Let's just try to keep our thoughts in today. Let's look at our thoughts and intentionally ask ourselves, are these thoughts true? Are they true right this minute? How can we make them more positive? Something that leads to more healing rather than more fear, or like last week we were talking about expectations that don't turn out right, and so it leads to more frustration. And all of these things are beginning to come together. Now, one of the things that I have been concerned about for years, probably most of my adult life actually, because other people have taught me to believe that too much play is just a form of procrastination, and procrastination is bad, and you don't get the work that you're supposed to get done if you're procrastinating. But what I'm finding is that as I'm trying to help myself to heal and kind of come back to my real kitty self, that the more that I'm trying to remember what it is that constitutes play for me, and a little bit of that is, movies and TV. A lot more of it is reading fiction. Boy, I've been getting my fiction fix the last week or two. It's been fabulous. Actually, probably a little bit more than that, maybe 3 weeks. I've been able to read a lot of fiction, and boy, I feel better. And also nonfiction. Oh my gosh, the last time that I just took the time because I wanted to read a nonfiction book. It was a long time ago. I don't know when, but boy, it feels good to just read up on something because I'm interested in it. I want to learn it just because I want to, not because I have to get this research done in order to get this writing project done and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not looking at it as work. I'm looking at it as play. And, as I am trying to think intentionally, Kitty, what do you want to do to play right now? Or what do you want to do to play today? I'm finding that things inside my brain are helping me to relax. And then I'm remembering what it is that I do like to do. And so just as an example, play is not leading to procrastination. It's more leading to more healing, because what happened this last week was that I was trying to, be very intentional about thinking to myself every day or a few times a day, okay, what would be something that you could do that would make you feel like you were playing right now? And one of the things that I did over the course of 2 afternoons, I went through and cleaned up every single Scrivener file that I have because it seemed like fun to me. I don't know why, but in the past, it seemed like another one of those huge projects that was on my to-do list for, I am not kidding you, several years. Because, for instance, I have at least 2 books. The first 2 books that I actually wrote, though they weren't the first 2 that were published in that order. Oh, they might have been. Anyway, first two books that I wrote were written over several years, and originally in Word and then in Scrivener. And then, I would send something to either my agent at the time or an editor later and get notes back and then change it again and change it again. And so I ended up with like 3 or 4, maybe at least 4, I think, different Scrivener files where I had started a story again. And it was a mess because what was happening is that I had some notes in this file, some different notes in that file, some different notes in that file that would have to do with, because of course, once you publish the book, the only thing that matters as far as history is what actually went into the published book. But this was a ton of notes about different characters that I wanted to introduce that hadn't been introduced yet, a whole bunch of different ideas about things that I wanted to do in the series, in the town that I hadn't done yet. And so it was a ton of information that was going to help me to finish out the series. And I couldn't just throw it away. I couldn't just be like, it'll be fine. I'll just start fresh and keep going. Well, that's not how I wanted to do it anyway. I didn't want to lose that information. And over the course of 2 afternoons, one of which I went to a cafe, which I haven't done for ages, with my laptop and just sat there in this nice, big, comfortable, fluffy chair. I cleaned up everything and everything is totally ready to go. And I have my Loon Lake Bible now put together. All the things that should be in there are in there. Several other book ideas or series ideas that I had that were I just threw them in the bottom of one of the Scrivener mini documents for one series that were ideas on a totally new, different series that I just never got around to hitting new, new file, new document, new Scrivener file, to create a new document for the new idea. That's finally done. My nonfiction stuff, now it's all organized and it looks good. Now I know exactly what file I want to open as soon as I'm ready to work on, some more writing, which seems to be on my mind more because for whatever reason, something inside my brain and with all these things that I've been talking about, this is suddenly seeming like fun instead of work. So I'm actually getting more done and feeling better, but I have to make sure that I don't think about it as, well, let's just trick myself. At this point, I'm not in a place where I can say, well, let's just trick yourself into acting like you're playing, but really you're working because you have so much work that needs to be done. Because that sort of came up into my conscious thoughts once, and that was the end of everything for that day. Like nothing else was going to get accomplished. So I'm bringing up all these things so you can be thinking, what are you doing? What are you thinking? What have you not been doing that you need to do more of, i.e. play? What are different ways that you can be looking at things that you haven't been looking at them before? For instance, play may not lead to procrastination 100% of the time. It may well be something that we need. And I do believe this because psychologists and neuroscientists and different other people have also been talking about it. It's just that it's been on my mind a lot more lately, that play actually is important to our human functions. What's going on in our heads and our hearts and our bodies and in our souls. So I'm bringing all these things together so that you will think about them too, because it has been a real help for me this week. And that's what the Encouraging Words episodes are supposed to be, something that will help you. That a lot of it comes from my own experience, and that I'm hoping that you will find, what I'm finding to be helpful to be something that you can use. So maybe you only need to use 1 or 2 pieces of this, or maybe you're like, oh my gosh, you needed this whole episode. And that's one of the wonderful things about being willing to share. I just had a lunch and a not coffee. I had hot chocolate, not coffee, because I don't like coffee, with 2 new friends over this past week. And it was so funny because the more that we were willing to open up to each other as we got to know each other, the more that we were finding that we had some really similar struggles in different areas, that it was like, oh, it feels so good to have someone to talk to who understands, in this area, this is how I feel and what I'm struggling with. And it was like, oh my gosh, this feels so much better. And whether we have ideas on ways to cope or get through things or whatever, how we got through something, or whether it's just a matter of sharing the information and sharing, oh yeah, I felt that way too in the past, or I feel that way right now, or whatever. It just makes us feel like we're connected more. So that's another reason why I want to share things with you, so that you'll feel like we're connected. You're not alone in how you feel. A lot of the things that we feel is very normal as human beings. It's normal for people who are very creative, and we think differently. We think a little differently from completely left-brained people, or people who are much more left-brained maybe than we are. So I hope that is helpful to you. It's been helpful for me to think about it. I think that, playing all the time, 100% of the time, probably wouldn't be any more useful or beneficial or healthy than working 100% of the time. I've already tried working 100% of the time. That definitely did not lead me to exceptional mental and physical health. So I'm going to try to come back to the balance, and I encourage you to try to do the same. I hope that you have a great week. We have another wonderful interview coming up this week. We're going to be talking about Chick Lit with Kristen Billerbeck. It was a fun interview, and I read this great book, her newest book, before I interviewed her. So we'll talk about that a little bit more too. I hope you are having a fabulous day, and we will talk more later.